the first part of the meeting is recognising that we are stewards of the land and the importance of our land acknowledgement statement. We hope you enjoyed the meeting. And don't fall asleep.
There we go. Humber Bay is on indigenous land and uniquely situated upon the Gabanaging Zivi the Anashama Moen, named for the Humber River, which means leave the canoes and go back. This waterway provides an integral connection between the indigenous communities of Lake Ontario, Lake Simcoe, and the Georgian Bay region. The Ashana Bay Moen, named for this area, is Adobego, which means place of the elders. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the First Nation. We gratefully acknowledge these Indigenous nations for their guardianship of this land. We'd also to remind and reaffirm as Torontonians and Canadians our accountability to these Indigenous nations and to all the Indigenous peoples and communities living in Toronto. This land is also part of the District of One Spoon Territory, a treaty between the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, aka Six Nations Confederacy, the Anishinaabe, and the allied nations to peaceably share and care for this land, its waters, and all the biodiversity of the Great Lakes region. All those who come and live and work here are responsible for honoring this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Okay. Yeah, so we need to make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous AGM meeting.
I motion.
Board of Directors.
So Mike is the president, Bob is the vice president.
Thomas Heath is our newest board member, and Ms. Serena is our communications coordinator. Dave is our treasurer. Bob Antrell is not with us tonight as he's in India doing some environmental initiatives. Our treasurer report.
Our fiscal year for the group. Okay, so can everybody see that now?
Yeah.
Okay. So our fiscal year for the group started October 1st, 2023 and goes to September 30th, 2024. Okay, so we started with $1,207.87 in our bank account, $1,200.87. We had almost $6,500 of donations. So we had the Great Outdoors Fund, 6,000 of the almost $6,500. Okay, and we had various others. Okay, the smaller amounts here are the amounts that just says we have an e-transfer with the person's name, and then a branch transaction, which is just the money we've taken on our market days. Okay, so that's what's coming in. Can everybody see that okay, or do I need to zoom in a bit more?
Pretty good. Yep.
Pretty good. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what the money coming in. Then the money going out here are checks issued here. So various here. Some donations to swim, drink, fish to Hike Ontario for insurance, and for Martin Luther Church for helping us move our tent and goods from back and forth to the market. Okay, so and we've done some also. I'm reimbursing Mike for new signs for the market, and that was sorry. I'm a little not sure why it's not.
Yeah, t-shirts.
Not letting me do this here. Sorry. There we go. All right. So that was $213, $250 to the Ontario Humber Bay Shores. Okay. And then we did some more t-shirts, $449. Okay. So in total, for the year, $2,300, just over $2,300. $2,300.72 was spent, and that left us a closing balance at the end of September, which is our fiscal year end, of $5,385.25. Okay, so we are above our money from the start of the year, doing well and looking for Mike can talk to us for us donations and things we can help. So we have some financial resources to do that. So do I have any questions from all that? So I'm whipping through this pretty quickly. Any questions? Any?
Yep, I'll move that we approve the financial report. Do you have a seconder?
I approve.
Okay. And
I approve.
Okay.
Great.
I will.
Thomas second. Okay. Great.
see in mushrooms is in the fall.
What kind of bird is that?
So that will not be a focus today, but we'll probably see some. Okay. 20 years ago, there were none nesting in Toronto. The nearest nest was like on a prairie. Seems to spread the fastest. Although there is another thing in here called autumn olive that's spreading very fast. The thorn is in there. Okay. In order to distinguish it from other plants, you look for leaves that have curve where the veins curve around to the end. Usually, most of the things are either opposite or alternate. They're very easy to take off, so how we're controlling burdock is just by grabbing all the seeds and putting them in the garden. Yeah, I think this is the native one. The native one we call musclewood, because if you... Pears and apples are extremely closely related. Flowers look very, very similar. There's two kinds of pears. One pear, calorie pear, it's tiny, decorative. It's only planted for decoration.
A few words about Amber Morley is a ball of fire with so much to accomplish. Her team has grown and gained experience. Happy to have Matt Cook and Monica Mason working with us. We have quick responses to all our concerns. Thank you for joining us.
Oh my gosh, quick responses. The pressure is on. No, that was a great video. Thank you so much for inviting Councillor Morley. She couldn't make it today, but I'm just here to say a few words on behalf of her. So I'm here from Councillor Morley's office, and she appreciates the important work that Friends of Humber Bay Park does for the beautiful park in our ward, stewarding the much-loved green space for the Humber Bay Shores community. Councillor Morley will be convening a meeting in the spring to walk through Humber Bay Park East. I know you mentioned you got Daniel's email with the update. We also got an update recently from the TRCA. So around April is when we're aiming for to convene TRCA, Toronto Region Conservation Authority, and park staff, and some residents association, and you guys to do a walkthrough and to just see what parts of the park we can partially open once the project stages kind of become completed. So it's an ongoing discussion, but I'm here to take it forward, and we'll do an in-person site walkthrough in April. So that's what I'm aiming for, and I'll reach out to schedule that. And just want to say again, thanks for all the work that you do. Community groups are at the heart of Ward 3, so keep up the amazing work. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And it's so nice to see you out regularly with your team and supporting us and the community. So next up, we have, thank you, like the arts. Christine Hogarth had to decline. She's in the legislature. I have to say, she's a Thunder Bay born and raised, lifelong conservative who has a memorable line, get out there, out into the real world. So good line for her. She comes out to all our events and represents our community. She's open to dialogue with her constituents. And at our last cleanup, she engaged with a lot of our participants, and there was a lot of open dialogue. So it's unfortunately she couldn't come out tonight.
Hey everyone, my name is Jocelyn Sommerfeld, and I'm currently the Vice President of Martin Luther Church Council. Martin Luther Church Toronto is proud to support the Friends of Humber Bay Park in different ways, whether that be through advertising, storage, or assisting with events. I personally have had the pleasure of helping Friends of Humber Bay Park at the Humber Bay Farmers Market a few times over the past 2 years, and it's been wonderful getting to know members like Mike, Dave, Bob, Verena, and Thomas, as well as encouraging the next generation to care for the environment by painting cigarette butt bins. As a faith-based organization, we believe in the good in others, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the good work of Emma, who is involved both with Martin Luther Church and the Friends of Humber Bay Park. She has been instrumental in connecting our organizations, and her dedication to her roles in both groups shows in everything she does. So thank you so much, Emma. I also believe that both Martin Luther Church and Friends of Humber Bay Park have similar goals about striving to keep our Mimico by the Lake community clean. Many people who come to our church speak about the beauty of our nearby nature, especially during our annual Easter sunrise service, where we gather by the water at Humber Bay Park and we watch the sun come up. I would like to sincerely thank the Friends of Humber Bay Park for everything you do to engage the public about caring for the environment through nature walks and shoreline cleanups, for example, so that it can be enjoyed by all. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and I look forward to our continued partnership. All the best.
Friends of Humber Bay Park hosted 4 cleanups this year: April 14th, June the 23rd, August the 12th, and October the 20th. We partnered with Toronto and Region Conservation Authority for 2 of them. We had so many helping hands and are very thankful. It was great to see so many families join in. It is important to teach the next generation about preserving, protecting, and enhancing the environment. We collected in April £300, June £150, August £100, and October £300. So that's quite a bit. On Sunday, August the 11th, Friends of Humber Bay Park turned from green to yellow and took part in the Unsmoke initiative, sponsored by the Great Outdoor Fund. We gave out free big yellow t-shirts with the slogan, "If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, we'll quit. If you don't quit, change." Which I think sums it up nicely and directly. Over 30,000 cigarette butts were collected. This is a major problem in this city. Actually, the world, but yeah. I'm not very good at math, but I did a little calculation just to visual up there. If one person smokes 20 a day, that's 20 times 70 equals 140 a week. 140 times 4 equals 560 a month. 560 times 52, that's 29,120 cigarettes a year. Times by the number of smokers, no wonder cigarettes are known the most littered item worldwide. They are washed on the streets, into storm drains, into rivers, and eventually into our oceans. This toxic exposure can poison fish as well as animals that eat them. We put the collected cigarette butts in a box, print out a label, and off it goes to be TerraCycled. Bad joke, I know. That's really bad. So once collected, the cigarette waste is cleaned and separated by material type. The materials are recycled into raw formats that manufacturers use to make new products. The ash and tobacco are separated out and composted in a specialized process. During our farmers market, we had paint book bid activity for the kids. These were later distributed in our areas. This is not the ideal way because they get thrown out or misused and filled with other trash. We are so hopeful for more changes going forward. I have a lot of ideas, too many ideas. My brain's just like, anyway. Friends of Humber Bay Park will continue to collect cigarette butts and send them off to TerraCycle, develop new connections and take part in new initiatives to make our city a nicer and safer place to live.
Yes. Yeah, I personally, I've been around the condo association on and off for many years. I was involved in its infancy and then came back a few years ago. And it's really nice to see our two groups working a little more together. So collaborating on a cleanup day and, joining us at the farmers market and all that good stuff. I liked it better when no one knew about Humber Bay Park. Now it's become a destination. It's a destination park.
The parking lot's going to be smaller. So
yeah. And, all the challenges for your group and ours. But anyway, grateful for your efforts and grateful to be living here, actually. So I live at Marina Del Rey, and I'm on the executive. So we've been around since 1997, and I think we have, at a high level, some of the same goals, but except we're involved in we have been involved in a lot of the planning in the community. Which is sometimes challenging and requires a lot of effort. On the other hand, sometimes we're asked to get involved early, so that part is nice. I'll go on to the next slide. Thank you. Yep. So as mentioned, we started the farmers market in 2011. I think it's really evolved over the years. We had very few vendors and we have a nice variety. I think the festival has also really evolved beautifully. We've gotten amazing feedback the past couple of years. Hope to continue that. And of course, our park cleanup day with you. And there's a golf tournament once a year. We do work with all levels of government, depending on what's going on in the community and either what's being planned or what challenges we need their help on. Which is nice to be a voice that all three politicians will, come and listen or call upon us. So again, we're involved in a lot of development projects, some policy changes. Recently, they completed the Master Transportation Plan, which is an incredible study. It actually, I think, takes maybe even years to conduct and complete. Not always to our liking. So we're, challenging some things. For example, the of changing park lawn to like reducing lanes. And on the one hand, when you do that, you can deter traffic. It can act as change people's behavior. And so they might avoid those types of roads. On the other hand, we know that density in our neighborhood is going to increase, especially with the Christie site. So, we didn't want that to happen. And thankfully, Councillor Morley doesn't want it to happen either. So that's just an example of one of the things that came up in the Master Transportation Plan. And one thing that we have been really trying to fight is a road that they'll be building through the new Christie site. Because the lakeshore becomes very congested, close to where the off-ramp is, the highway off-ramp, the new road would come out right in that area. And so we're saying, why don't you connect it to this existing off-ramp off of the highway? And of course they keep saying no, but we're going to keep at them and see what we can do there. Next slide. Yeah, so I got ahead of myself. We fighting Street A in the Christie site. One thing I want to talk about that I'm not sure people would know is that because there is a GO stop coming in on the Christie site, if all goes well, should be completed in 2027. Although that's exciting, and hopefully we'll get some cars off the road. I know that I've always been transit friendly, but gosh, that stop is going to be my friend when it comes in. But what happens is the development in a certain circumference around the station, density is allowed to increase, up to a certain area. So, you'll see that everywhere. The Mimico station, you can see it starting to happen. The Mimico GO, and of course, even subway stops, right? So, we've got the Legion Road extension coming in 2027. So that will, I think, people across the road, on the north side of Lakeshore from Park Lawn, like Mystic Point, people in Mystic Point, I feel like they're landlocked. And hopefully that'll open up traffic and reduce congestion too. In terms of connecting the condo corporations, we just created a Facebook page for the members. So members are the condo boards. So it would be for them, and they can sort of ask each other questions around policies, bylaws, who they use for vendors, etc. So we're trying to improve that for our members. Next slide. So some examples of things that we work on, large and small. Over the years, I guess decades, we've helped create bus routes. Many moons ago, the express bus, which all the express buses in the city were canceled, I think, around COVID time. And they were not brought back because they were too costly. Even though they charged a double fare for those express buses, they still, I guess, were not cost beneficial. And, we've input to consultations like on noise bylaws and development process. We try and improve traffic flow with timing of traffic lights, or trying to fight the building of a condo that might be too tall or too dense for the area, and everything in between. Next slide. Yep. So we do publish a magazine, which has now become an e-magazine. We do have some hard copies available. Humber Happenings with updates and local contributions in terms of articles or ads or anything else. You can get us through email. There's our phone number. Yeah, and I don't know if anyone has any questions or if that just gives you a flavor of what we're doing.
Any questions from before about? Yeah, there's a lot of congestion. The biggest problem is they didn't build the infrastructure before they built the buildings. That was at the traffic meetings. They didn't know how to answer how they could solve our congestion problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, I think we're going to see an evolution with the ghost top put in. I'm not saying the ghost top is the magic bullet, but you know, I've seen it in other neighborhoods. Like, I don't know if anyone's familiar with King West. Well, King West was industrial and, you know, bars and, you know, not very nice. I mean, and now it's all built out, beautiful low-rise condos, and the streets are full. People are walking back and forth. You never saw that. And because I've been here so long at Marina Del Rey, you know, when I moved in, the motels were all still in. It was Palace Place and us, and it was all motels in between. So there's no stores, there's nobody walking. You know, the park looked very different, and was not that walkable. So just since, you know, the Westlake, like the grocery store and the drugstore and all that went in, it's a problematic development, you know, people going in and out of there. However, I see a lot more people walking back and forth, right? So I think you're going to see more of that. Like, you know, people are going to take transit more. Unfortunately, our city is, I would say, minimum 20 years, maybe 30 years behind in transit, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the real.
It's fairly bicycle friendly, but they did a survey, 43% of people prefer to drive, partly because there's not enough bus transit service in the area.
Yeah, and
bus is always packed.
There will be a dedicated rail, like the streetcar. There will be a section where it's they will have their own lane, and when you have a dedicated lane or dedicated rail for streetcars, like the Queens Quay, you know, Harborfront, there, it moves people, right? You're not waiting for cars turning. You're not waiting for people blocking, you know, transit. You know, you're just moving from stop to stop.
And the other things, if they have proper stop signs and people obey traffic laws on Lakeshore, be less accidents. You see a lot of T-bone cars all the time. So.
Yeah, gosh, it's crazy some of the things I see people do.
I nearly got hit by a car the other day while I was getting off the streetcar.
Mm.
Some of them just don't think.
Yep. Have to take care of yourself.
I know.
Yeah, we have this beautiful park, but we're still in the big city.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And again for inviting me. And
I'm glad you're part of our community and part of our network.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to it. So
okay. I'll say good night.
I work in a very virtual space all the time, so I've had my practice. Yeah, thanks everybody for having me. Like I said, my name's Megan. I work at Swim Drink Fish as our Great Lakes program manager. So I sort of oversee all of our projects here in the Great Lakes region. But I live in Toronto and have a special connection to Humber Bay, especially Humber Bay Park West, because that's where I swam for the first time in Toronto. So it's a really lovely place. My interest in Humber Bay first began, actually, we have a group that's been monitoring E. coli there, which is part of our programming for the last 6 years now. Super dedicated volunteers. So we've kind of been around the region for a while. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we plan to do in the West End of Toronto in the coming months. But I did want to do just a really brief introduction to who Some Drink Fish is, for those of you who don't know. We were founded in 2001 by a man named Mark Mattinson. We kind of started as a legal advocacy group, prosecuting both the provincial and federal government for illegal pollution. And over time, we've sort of shifted into a community science group where we engage with local communities, groups, volunteers, just to allow them to become advocates for their waters. We work on 3 pillars that seem they're akin to our name: swimmable, drinkable, and fishable water. Swimmable water means not only that people can access and swim in water, but also that they can do so safely without fear of contaminated water. Drinkable is sort of our pillar that everybody deserves access to a watershed for their water that is clean and drinkable. So no boil water advisories. And fishable is sort of the ecosystem health component where, we not just humans need water, aquatic life and other life does as well. So we try to focus on a holistic approach of protecting waterways. Super quickly, Mike already mentioned it, but we focus a lot of our advocacy work in Toronto on the combined sewer system. It is the number one source of pollution here in the city, and quite a lot of sewage enters. This little graphic shows kind of in a good way how the combined sewer system works, but our sort of wastewater gets combined with our stormwater, and theoretically that's really good when it all gets treated, but very rarely does it all get treated. Often what happens is it'll overflow directly into our waterways, transporting untreated wastewater and sewer water straight into our rivers and lakes. I can leave it up to your imagination what that all contains, but it's a lot of really not nice things. Specifically, here is an interesting graphic. This is the Humber River. In Toronto, there's over 90 combined sewer outfalls. So those are the points where that untreated water enters our lakes and rivers. 28 of them specifically go straight into the Humber River and outlets right in beautiful Humber Bay Park. So they're a pretty big concern and something that Some Drink Fish works specifically on to help mitigate some of the water quality issues we see. Coming into the new year, we have a really exciting project that will be sort of launching in 2025, which is aligning with the Western Beaches revitalization strategy that the City of Toronto has sort of reinitiated the past year. For those of you who haven't seen it, they're sort of opened up to public consultation, and they're going to be doing some work revitalizing the shoreline between Humber Bay and Ontario Place. There's about a 4-kilometer stretch there. So we're taking advantage of the city's commitment to sort of restarting that project by shifting our engagement work into the West End. Some of our big focal points of this are advocating for real-time monitoring of the CSOs within that scope. So there's 2 of them, which seems really small when I just showed you that there was almost 100 in all of Toronto. But we've been asking them to monitor all of them for a long time. And unsurprisingly, we don't get a lot of action on that. It's a really big ask. So by focusing on 2, we're hoping to get some actual action there that should open the door for more conversation and perhaps more monitoring. The benefit of real-time monitoring on these CSOs is that it provides in real time notifications to people about when pollution's entering the lake and where exactly it's entering, which can protect swimmers and recreators so that they're not swimming when sewage is flowing in the water. It keeps them healthy. It also improves the transparency between the city and other vested groups so that we know when it's entering. We can help provide better solutions to mitigating the effects of the sewage, and really target those to specific areas. So that's one of our big asks. We've been writing some letters to different councillors in the city, and trying to get some engagement there and some commitments. We have on our webpage, we are getting people to sign in support of that. So some progress there. We have a couple hundred signatures so far. Something else we're doing is creating an advocacy guide. What this really is just a sort of something we'll distribute publicly that talks about the west end of Toronto, the Humber River, the shoreline, the problems it faces, and then how people can act and get involved to sort of share their voices and become water stewards themselves, engaging with both us and other community groups like yourselves. We'll be focusing on doing some engagement events in the summer of 2025. So I'm optimistic that we can hopefully collaborate on something in the summer of next year. We have a little bit of time to plan now, so that should actually happen this time around. And the purpose of that is, again, to share our guide, get some folks out and improve water literacy, and just talk about the issues that Humber River and the shoreline faces. And the final big act in the Western Channel is we're hoping to actually do some investigative sampling. So in that 4-kilometer stretch, there's a lot of people that have started swimming in different parts of the channel since Ontario Place has closed down for construction. And so that's really great that people are still using the water, but there's not a lot of water quality data available to them. So we're hoping that we can work with local swimming groups and other recreators to target areas that they're swimming and provide them with the data they need to access it safely. And also so that we have a better understanding of where the water is good and where it might be not so good. Again, to help us with that advocacy work and communicating with the city and other vested partners. We have a lot of other projects and things going on all the time, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. So that's sort of our big focus for next year. I just have my email up there if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out or learn a little bit more about Swim Drink Fish. It's just my name at swimdrinkfish.ca. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Megan. Any questions from Megan before? No. Thank you so much. Our guest speaker, Victoria Balwang from the Toronto Nature Stewards. We're pleased to have you here. Toronto Nature Stewards is with the agreement of the City of Toronto, Forestry runs a stewardship program on public land, ravines, natural areas without the direct city supervision. Sites are managed by lead stewards who have been trained and follow concrete on protocols for ecological restoration and report for stewardship activities. And we're happy to welcome Victoria from the Toronto Nature Stewards. Nice to see you again.
Hi. Yeah, thanks so much for that intro, Mike. Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me to speak on behalf of TNS. I'm thrilled to be here, and it's really lovely to see everyone's faces. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and we can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Can everyone see?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, great. So, what's that?
I recognize these people.
Oh, yeah, exactly. As I'm sure you do. So Mike is one of our lead stewards. And like Mike said, we are a volunteer-based organization. And the way that we work is we're decentralized. We have many different sites across Toronto. And each site basically functions as its own team. So before I go into any more details, let me go ahead and get started with this slideshow presentation. So one thing that we like to say at TNS is oftentimes people come for the plants, but we stay for the folks. And I think that really just highlights how TNS has started off as an organization that was very rooted in science-informed, research-based, community-led ecological restoration. But in the years since it's really flourished, it's also become, I think, a touch point of community for a lot of nature lovers across the city. As I mentioned earlier, we have many, many different sites across Toronto. And a big part of the reason why is because Toronto has just a really high percentage of ravine and natural area covering our surface area. There's actually 17% of our surface area that is covered by ravines and natural areas. And so that kind of has earned Toronto the moniker of a city within a park. Basically, the origins of TNS starts with a group of scientists at the University of Toronto. 40 years ago, in 1977, they did a study called the Toronto Ravines Revitalization Studies, and they essentially took a look at how well our natural areas and ravines are doing. And they found that the ravines weren't doing very well, but they also didn't necessarily notice any urgency amongst our political leaders or amongst our community at large of wanting to do anything much about it. So in 2020 or in 2017, the scientists went back and took a look at the same area of land, and they found that the situation has gotten astronomically worse. And the natural area had deteriorated alarmingly. As you can see from the picture, in 1977, the tree cover was 10% invasive. And by the time we had hit 2015, the tree cover of invasive species had risen to 40%. Now, this actually got the attention of national, provincial, as well as local media, people in power, and in positions of leadership. And so, for that reason, they started to look at different ways of how we could better manage our ravine land. Because we have 11,000 hectares, the way that management intervention looks like from a research-based, scientifically rooted perspective is if we consistently and continually remove invasive species, we are going to see these ebbs and flows, but on average, they will start to decline until they reach a new ecological balance. So because of this study and because of the sort of national and again, like the widespread attention that these studies have gotten, 2017, the city of Toronto published something called the Toronto Ravine Strategy. And in this document, the city themselves talked about this need to work in partnership with the community with groups such as your group here, Friends of Humber Bay Park, to really unlock wide scale restoration and management of our natural areas. So to fill this need, that is where Toronto Nature Stewards emerged. And so our mission is to engage and educate the people of Toronto in the stewardship of our ravines and natural areas. And to do this, we have an agreement with the city where we train volunteers into becoming certified lead stewards. Each lead steward can supervise up to 10 volunteer stewards at every event. And in that way, essentially becomes de facto city supervision for the stewardship activity that goes on. And primarily the reason we do this is because there is a bylaw in the city of Toronto that is meant to protect our natural areas, but the sort of unintended consequence is that civilians like you and I are technically, legally not allowed to remove any plants or plant any new plants without city supervision. So that's why our structure and our agreement is really important, because our agreement with the city, where we have this teach the teacher model, is what allows us to operate in spite of this bylaw. Ooh. So this is just a little visual depiction of what I just explained of how we are essentially the intermediaries between the community and the city. And through, again, like our organization, community members are able to just do more stewardship on a wider scale on public land. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of sites across the city. This year, we have 42 sites across the city. We have over 600 active stewards. We have over 100 lead stewards. And so really, we're just quite thrilled with the interest and the passion that people have showed for community-led ecological restoration. So wanted to show you a little bit about what we do. What do lead stewards do? Like we mentioned earlier, lead stewards play a really big role in gathering community and bringing nature lovers across their local area together in a way where people can meet each other, people can work together, people can really do hands-on nature work in this environment of camaraderie, essentially. Lead stewards also teach people about ecological restoration, about the importance of native plants, and why it is that we need to remove invasive species in order to maintain a healthy ecosystem. And oftentimes, this sort of education just looks like people coming up to stewards as they do the work and asking questions. And finally, we're very much all about getting the work done. People love to say we're all about being doing the boots on the ground type of work. So the bread and butter of our operations comes down to removing invasive species. Some of our sites are authorized to plant native species and also picking up litter. We as an organization really value collaboration because we recognize that to manage such a large swath of area requires everybody to really just work together across sectors, across communities. And so for us, we really value the ethos of bringing individuals together and bringing groups together and finding the alignment, finding the synergy so that we can all help create the biggest impact we can create. Very quickly, our ecological approach is something called the Bradley method, and essentially that means that we start working by identifying native species, and we start there. So if we find the native species in a natural area, we start by removing the invasive species around that patch before we move on to other places. So this is a picture depiction of what that would look like. As you can see, we choose an area, or lead stewards will choose an area that they notice a lot of native species in, and typically there are also a lot of invasive species in that area. This invasive species right here is called burdock. And I think part of what's so rewarding about stewardship is that you can see both the immediate change, as you can see through these pictures, but over time you can also see a lot of gradual, more profound change as well. So you kind of have that simultaneous instant gratification as well as that longer term sense of hard work and fulfillment. These are just some of the native species in Topham Pond, which is right around the Humber Bay Park area too. This is all in the west. This is all in the west end, and I believe Topham Pond is a bit higher up north the river than Humber Bay Park is. On the right, that is riverbank grape. It is a type of native vine that bears grapes. And on the left, it is a type of wild native cranberry. These are just some pictures of our stewards doing the work from different sites. Highland Park is from our east end. Cedarbrook Park is more so in the central area. Here are some native species that have been found in our ravines and natural areas. Salima, who's one of our volunteers, also, as you can see in her little quote here, describes the joy that comes from stewardship and from discovering these native species just right under your nose, really. The reason why I've included a picture of some seedlings on the right is because this year we have launched a pilot program of seed sitting, of growing our own seedlings, and also of seed collection this fall. So it's a new direction that we are building towards, and we're very excited about this development. Finally, I just want to end on a hopeful note. This quote is from Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's an Indigenous botanist who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass, which I know is a beloved book amongst us naturalists. And I think a lot of people find a lot of fulfillment in stewardship because fundamentally it gives us hope that things can change, because we can see the way that we can use our two hands to create significant and noticeable change. And so, as she says, restoration is a powerful antidote to despair. So finally, I just want to end on the same note we started on, which is if you're interested, please do come spring, come for the plants, and perhaps stay for the people. So this is some more information about how to get in touch with us if you're interested. Feel free to screenshot, feel free to jot some notes down. And I just want to say thank you again for your time and for listening. It's really always so encouraging to see a room full of nature-loving folks. So yeah, really happy to be here.
Thank you so much. That was really
Thank you.
inspiring.
Yeah, that was great.
Of course. Thanks so much for listening.
Thomas is one of our newest volunteers who like to welcome as a board of director. So I guess we do a motion from the floor. I'll move that Thomas become official board of director. Have a second? Oh, and Glenn is seconding the motion. Secondly, I sent a few emails out if anybody would like to nominate a friend or colleague to become a board member. Seeing Glenn is here, I wanted to nominate Glenn as the board of director, and if you'd like to accept the nomination, let us know. You can unmute yourself or just react with the hands up. Or
you mentioned Glenn. Are there other Glens there? Because I wrote to you today to say that I would not be available for that appointment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Pollyann Susula, she expressed interest in becoming a board member, and have a motion to accept Pollyan's desire to become a board member. I'll
Motion.
Oh, okay. I'll second. And so Pollyann is now member of our board. Trish Les she comes and does volunteers with us as well, but haven't heard back from her yet. So we're there. Yeah, it's great. So we have three new board members, and welcome to Friends of Humber Bay Park. So I'd like to thank Toronto Wildlife Center. We couldn't be here tonight. Swim, Drink, Fish, Turtle Protectors, TRCA, and the River Bay Shores Condo Association, and the Toronto Nature Stewards for being part of our meeting tonight. It's great to have a team like that in our community to make a change in our natural environment. And special thank you to Dave, to David Creelman, who looks after our swallow boxes during the season. Thank you for being around. Thank you. I'll encourage any questions or from the floor. Anybody has any questions or comments? That brings the meeting to a close. The motion to adjourn, I guess, would be in order.
One motion.
Emma motions, and we have a second. I'll second. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for everybody for coming tonight. You've been